Wow. Wow, 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 wow. Exciting to be here. I'm just thrilled. Let's move my picture here. You can see me. I can't tell you how hard this has been for me to keep a secret. You know, in a family of 10, I'm sure Josh will agree, it's really hard to keep a secret. You got to tell somebody you know something they don't know, and then rumor spreads pretty fast. So I'm very excited to talk about this. And I almost just want to tell you right now and switch to, okay, here it is, this is what you need to know. But instead, I think a great way to do this is, how about if I tell a story for the next number of minutes? Because you know what? You're going to tell this story to your customers. So they know what you know, so they want this question mark new supplement. I want to say that I'm very honored to be sharing this with you as the newest member of the very esteemed Scientific Advisory Board. John Miller guiding me for a long time before I joined a year ago. This marks a year anniversary. I'm very happy. It's been, I say, the best decision besides my kids and blah, blah, blah. But anyway, a very, very good decision to join because of what Neo-Life stands for. To me, and as I knew about it before, but didn't distinguish it from other companies, but as I've learned about the dedication of looking at what's in nature and backing those decisions for formulations with true science, really looking at credible research, formulating products that make sense. And that's really something that I don't know another company that can say that. So my excitement and privilege is to be able to talk to you about this new supplement. So, everybody ready for a story? Yeah? Okay. So what I'd like to do is start with talking about a category in nutrition. Now, I'm used to classes of 1,200 students, mostly wearing pajamas because we start at 10:30 in the morning usually, and they're just rolling out, or else they're watching online, and welcome for those of you watching live stream or might watch this later. Minerals are one of the 6 categories of nutrients. You're probably going, really? We're going to talk about minerals? No, this is really, really exciting. This is really exciting, and I hope that little torte piece of the earth and a tree and water flowing over it. I know for those of you who are hungry, it may look like a piece of cake. It's actually a piece of the earth. And what we want to talk about are, what are minerals, for heaven's sakes? What are they? Well, carbon and hydrogen and oxygen and nitrogen that essentially make up fats and carbohydrates and protein, everything other than that are called minerals. Literally, they make up the world around us. And for your body, you have minerals inside of you. Approximately 5% or so of your body weight is minerals. If you're of African descent, more like 6. If you're of Asian descent, more like 4% of your body weight. Well, you say, okay, great, what does that mean? Well, if you've ever gone to the grocery store and you need to get a 5-pound sack of potatoes or a 10-pound sack of potatoes, that weight is what we're talking about. So somebody who weighs 100 pounds, small person, that's equivalent to the weight of a 5-pound bag of potatoes. Think of a 10-pound bag of potatoes, 200-pound person. You have a lot. Do you see any? Do you see any on me? See any minerals? Well, touch your teeth, feel your arms, the bones, your teeth. Those in part are minerals. Don't worry, we won't be going through all of those. They're essential. There are close to 20 different minerals, 16 that we have established requirements for, and what that means is your body has no capacity to make them. So you can't breathe a mineral in from a dusty road that's kicked up some rock and dust and dirt. You've got to get these in your diet because we rely on these to give your body structure and to do another function called regulation. Pretty much everything that goes on inside that you don't have to even think about. What minerals can't do, they don't provide a fuel source. That's only carbohydrate, fat, and protein. But what I'm going to be talking about makes everything else possible in your body. Where do minerals come from? If we can't make them, where do they come from? They're in the Earth's crust, the rock. The rock, billions of years old, and it's gotten into the soil and water. And I'd like to take you through this path in the food chain, because this is part of the story that you're going to tell your customers. The minerals that you need in your diet, basically, you can say, originate in water and soil. From soil, they actually came from the rocks. So plants that take up water, that take up nutrients from the soil, bring in those minerals that that plant needs to grow and to carry on its nutrition and function. So then animals, let's say this cow here that we're looking at, that eats the grass, it's going to go into the cow's milk or other parts of that animal. And that goes for all sorts of animals that you might eat. And then we end up drinking the water, eating the plants, using animal products. So that's how minerals get in. Why is that an important part of the story? What if it's not in the soil? What if it's been depleted? What if? There are lots of things that have been changing as of recent. So our bodies, what % of your body weight is minerals? And that's just like about a 5-10 pound bag of potatoes. Okay, well, where are they? They're everywhere. They're everywhere in our body. And we like to categorize them. We can't just say, okay, let's discuss all 16. Don't worry, we're not going to, of the essential minerals. But if we were talking about categories, the major minerals, of which I'm only showing a few of them, things like sodium, I'm sure you've heard about, and that it's an essential mineral, but too much can be problematic. And you've certainly heard about calcium. We hear a lot of emphasis about that. These minerals are present in a greater amount in your body than the second category of minerals called trace minerals or microminerals. So if I were to take just your mineral content, and this is what happens when a body is cremated, so all the water is gone, all the carbohydrate, which is very small anyway, all the protein, all the fat, we're left with ash. Okay, if I move away all the major minerals, I have a tablespoon left of trace minerals. That's iron and zinc and copper. Very small amount. We require them in a small amount. And we can go on and talk about some of those, but let's not. Let's get back to those major minerals. We need those in amounts in our daily diet because we can't make them, they're essential nutrients, in amounts greater than 100 milligrams. So the major minerals, what I want to focus on is magnesium. Who is talking about magnesium? Anybody? Is it like dinner table discussion? Not really. We tend to talk about getting enough calcium. We focus on potassium, rightly so, for healthy blood pressure. We talk about getting less sodium, but we don't really, magnesium falls the wayside. Shouldn't be that anymore, and it won't be after we finish our story. Thanks to the Scientific Advisory Board, cueing in on all the important research and what's developed over the past several years, noting that magnesium status is an issue for people. Now, this part of the story is simply telling us, if you look at the frame, is we take in magnesium every day, hopefully around 360 milligrams roughly, but as you'll see, a lot of people don't. And we get rid of that amount. We try to exchange and keep our body at around 25 grams of magnesium is inside of us. 25 grams, just shy of an ounce. It's still a major mineral. Your body generally likes to store it in the bone. We'll find some in the muscle, but very little in your blood. So don't let anybody tell you, oh yeah, I had my blood tested, I'm fine on magnesium. It's not a good indication at all. So very little of it do we see loose in body fluids. Very little of it. That's an important part of the story because there's actually no really good way to easily assess magnesium status. That means status means how you doing? Do you have enough? Have enough in your body? Is it functioning properly? So what does magnesium do for you? We got to really emphasize this part of the story, and it's incredible. It's incredible. More than any other mineral, magnesium is involved in 700 different biochemical reactions. Who could keep track of them? I'm not going to start. But if we look at other minerals, we can identify, okay, iron plays this role and calcium has, many. But more than any other mineral, magnesium is out there running the show. Okay, it's running the show in being involved in these biochemical reactions, and that means it is being in charge of, in a sense, producing energy, in building different proteins in your body, and I'm just sort of skirting the full topic and making hormones. That might seem okay, but let's look even closer, because I want you to be able to tell the story of what magnesium does inside your cells. Okay? And sometimes is science kind of hard to understand? Yeah, I think it is. And I know you're smarter than 18-year-olds that I end up talking to. Sorry for anybody that's 18 or younger. That it's, it can be overwhelming and just pass over your head because there are a lot of scientific terms. Well, magnesium plays its largest role in producing energy in your body. Okay? Magnesium is needed for the production of a high-energy molecule called ATP. You need to write that down. The full name, adenosine triphosphate. You can write that down if you want. Adenosine triphosphate. Here's a way to look at it. Here's a way to look at it. ATP is just like the currency that you use in whatever country you're in. Let's say here in the US, we're using a dollar bill. That's our basic common denominator, dollars. Do you have to pay for things that, like getting here, right? Costs some dollars. It costs dollars to eat. It costs dollars to pay for your electricity bill or gas bill. There's a price. There's a price for it. So inside of your body, there's a price. There's a price to build a strand of hair. There's a price to make a new cell. There's a price to keep an eyeball cell functioning. There's a price for everything. We don't think of paying it because you don't have to pay attention to it. Your body's doing it for you only if you have adequate magnesium. Only if you have adequate magnesium. Magnesium in the production of cellular energy, making ATP, you are able to drive how many biochemical reactions? 700. That's a lot. Magnesium's all throughout your body, very, very busy. So this is very far-reaching when you think about it. Very far-reaching in terms of what this cellular currency, ATP, just like the currency you use wherever you are, is fueling all of those reactions. So how would you explain it to a customer? Magnesium drives the production of ATP, and ATP is what? It's the currency in your cell. It's paying for all the things that need to happen, whether that's making new proteins. And your body is very, very busy every single second making new proteins. You're constantly remodeling yourself, making new blood cells, muscle cells, all of that. You're making genetic material, RNA and DNA. I know it sounds fancy, but it's literally a set of instructions. Inside all of your cells, you have a set of instructions that your cell machinery that makes protein reads and says, oh, I see, I'm supposed to make a muscle protein. I'm a muscle cell, I'm going to read that part of the instructions. I'm a liver cell, I'm going to read that part of the instructions. I'm a hair follicle conglomerate of cells. I'm going to read that set of instructions and grow a strand of hair. What do we need for all those things that we're building? What currency? ATP, and therefore magnesium. So for everything that's going on inside of your body, you need magnesium. Well, let's look at just some of the areas from head to toe, literally, that you need magnesium for. So when you tell your story about magnesium, be sure to talk about that it's involved in neurological health, nerve impulse transmission, mood, Synapses, that is the message that needs to be sent from one neuron to the next. Muscular contractions. Now, I know Jerry hinted to some muscle cramps. We'll get there. But when you contract a muscle, have you ever thought about that? That you go to take a step or you're going to pick up something. You send a message, that muscle's got to contract and take that resistance. So why, for heaven's sakes, when you're in the middle of the night, that you point your toes and what happens to some of us? Yeah, cramp. Why is it contracting? What did you do? Well, you have to have the right balance of, essentially, magnesium for messages to move properly, and muscle spasms can occur. It also can occur with over-exercising. And we know that for athletes, for example, magnesium now, in working with athletes, we are focusing on magnesium intake for a lot of these athletes. Cardiovascularly, maintaining a normal, healthy blood pressure. Why do we want to do that? Why, when you go to the physician's office, do you have your blood pressure measured? Does anybody know why do they look at that? It's for cardiovascular health. If your blood pressure is high, your heart is strained. It's one of the major risk factors for cardiovascular disease, for heart attacks. Still here in the US, it's the #1 cause of death in men and women. And there are multiple factors that play a role. So we have to pay attention to balancing all those different electrolytes and nutrients, and magnesium's one of them. Heart rhythm. If you've ever been told you have arrhythmias, there are many causes for it. We know that electrolytes, major minerals, magnesium, play a role. Your bones. What mineral do we think of when we talk about bone health? Calcium, right? Calcium. Sure, that makes sense. And phosphorus is another one. But hey, it's not the only one. It doesn't have the corner on bone health. In fact, we've been paying so much attention to calcium, we've forgotten about magnesium being a part of strong, healthy bone formation that's more resistant to the development of, what's that bone disease that too many people get? Osteoporosis. 1 in 2 women and 1 in 4 men develop osteoporosis in their lifetime. Not good. We know that our immune system, which we need to serve as a barrier of protection for us against invading pathogens, bacteria, things we don't want, dependent upon magnesium. And finally, metabolic health. Now, I don't know if that means something to you, metabolic health. What it really is representing is how well are you handling all the different substrates, the compounds like glucose that provide you with fuel, carbohydrate. How well are you handling those? Is your pancreas working well? Do your cells respond well to the insulin that's being put out? And do you have a good balance? That's metabolic health. And unfortunately, many of us are suffering, developing insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes, and metabolic syndrome. It's all too common, growing in teens, young adults, and older adults. So this is just a smattering. So 700 reactions reach all these areas. Now, I touched on that magnesium and calcium go together. And if you, like a lot of people, have been focusing on calcium in your diet, which is great, it's so important for bone health, healthy blood pressure, but we're just now realizing, wait a minute, if you don't have enough magnesium, you can't properly utilize calcium. That's an important line in your story. So it isn't just calcium. This is what I enjoy so much and feel so appreciative for, is the synergy that Neolife Scientific Advisory Board addresses when a supplement, when a product, the need first for a product is developed. We're understanding better about magnesium's role, why is it at risk right now, and how it interacts with other nutrients. In fact, in the development of this new product that I've yet to tell you about, but I will, Dr. Andrea Rosenoff consulted with the Scientific Advisory Board. She's an author of a very important book, The Magnesium Factor. She is an education and research center in Hawaii, and I am voting that we go for a field trip, but hasn't happened yet. Helped us develop and look at the importance and a term I'm going to bring up as part of our story, the bioavailability of magnesium. Okay, so have I convinced you magnesium's important? Okay, great, great. And you might be thinking, okay, so do I need it? How much do I need? Do we have any capacity to make ourselves make magnesium? No. Any mineral do we have the capacity to make? No. Where do we get it? From the earth. Rock, soil, water, then the plants and the animals. You guys are great. You got your story down. I love it. Okay, so we need, as all major minerals, we need 100 milligrams or more. Everyone's a little bit different. Magnesium, we need in the range of about 300 or so to 400. You don't need to memorize these numbers. They're just there to kind of give you an order of magnitude. Calcium, we happen to need 3 times as much. Why? Because it is present in our body in a larger amount and is giving more of a structural role. Sodium, we don't need as much as we eat, but we're taking in usually about 5 times the amount of magnesium that we need. So that's just to put it in perspective, okay? 400 milligrams is less than a gram. Is less than a gram. Again, just to put it in perspective. So where can you find it in the foods that you're eating? Anybody have any guess? What? Green leafies. Okay, I'm glad that somebody shouted that out because green leafy vegetables are what color? Okay, that was a big question. That was a big one. They're green because we see the pigment chlorophyll. When we look at that leaf of spinach, we see the pigment green chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is that magical compound in plants that traps the sun's energy. That spinach leaf is growing, and it's taking solar energy, photosynthesizing, and the plant is making its own carbohydrate. We then come along and eat the leaf of spinach. Not very much carbs in it, but let's take something a little bit more notable, like a piece of fruit. So we have an apple tree out there, or an avocado, which is technically a fruit. And that leaf is gathering the energy from the sun, converting it into carbohydrates and some other compounds, and sending it to that place that will grow into a new plant. It's storing energy, and we benefit from that. So when you eat green leafy vegetables, you eat the chlorophyll, and that's where magnesium is, in the green leafy vegetable. It's also in nuts and seeds and whole grains and seafood and beans. Anybody's favorite? Beans? Black beans, garbanzo beans. Okay, so I could walk off right now and say, there, go ahead, eat those things. What do you think? We have a lot of issues here. We have a lot of issues that's part of your magnesium story that you're telling your customers. We're not getting enough for a variety of reasons. We have either a poor intake or our status is low. If we went in and investigated all those sites where magnesium should be doing its job, it's not. 50% of all adults. Magnesium has been identified by the U.S. Department of Agriculture in the dietary guidelines for Americans as a risk nutrient. Wow. Did you hear that in the news? Probably not. There's so many other things. We need to start focusing on it. It absolutely is a vital nutrient. Older adults, 70 to 80%, poor intake or poor status. Why do you think older adults always get the whammy here on being lower in certain nutrients? What do you think? I think I heard it. A big one is when you were 20, you maybe were eating 2,500 calories. When you're 70, you're eating, if you're maintaining a healthy weight, you just don't burn as many calories, you're eating less, you're maybe eating 1,800 calories or maybe less than that. It's hard to fit it all in. Okay, that's just one possibility. But I want to take you through 3 things that you should be able to recite back to me in your story why we don't get enough magnesium. 3 crucial things why we don't get enough magnesium. Okay, the first one I want to focus on all 3, but the levels of magnesium in our diet, they're just not there. Our food choices. I'm seeing some sprinkled donuts there. I tried not to show the whole picture because you might be getting hungry. How many people's eyes lit up there like, yay, really, I can eat those? No. Okay, a lot of refined foods, like donuts and highly refined carbohydrates, even though sunflower seeds are rich in magnesium, guess what? When we make sunflower oil, what happens? We lose it. That refining process, we end up losing much of it. And that's problematic. So our food supply, the amount is down because of the refinement, the processing. And so when we go to reach for something, and especially if we're not making good choices, if green leafy vegetables enter your diet once a week as opposed to every day, then that can be problematic. Bioavailability for most people, reason number 2, bioavailability is declining. Bioavailability, what the heaven's name does that mean? I want you to be able to explain this to someone. And we're going to go over it a couple of times. So I'm going to just say it here, and I'm going to show you a picture later, so it'll hopefully give you a way to explain it. Bioavailability is simply the amount of what's in food. If I tell you that this serving of green leafy vegetables has 50 milligrams of magnesium, what percent or amount of that 50 milligrams is absorbed that gets into your body? Carbohydrate, fat, and protein are highly bioavailable. We don't really talk about it. We absorb literally all the calories from them. But remember, magnesium doesn't have calories. It is the mineral that we're trying to get inside. It can have a bioavailability in some cases of less than 20%. How does that sound? You're thinking, oh, I have this great source, and then I don't absorb very much of it. Now, if you layer on top of that lifestyle factors like high sodium intake. Anybody enjoy salted foods? Yeah, and we just by default have it. Alcohol, use of antacids. It's believed that some changes for you, like stress, may impact bioavailability. But more importantly, items in your diet. So that bioavailability has been steadily declining for things, mostly reasons of what we are also eating or taking. So we'll just call them lifestyle issues. And finally, unfortunately, levels of magnesium that are in soils that get into these quick-growing crops are declining. And we're probably not giving our plants enough time. We develop them to be quick-growing, high-producing, and lower levels of magnesium. So what do we have? Intake or food choices, poor. Bioavailability is declining. And levels in soil, therefore crops declining. Those are 3 reasons why we're not. So then what happens? What happens inside of you? Do you look any different? Do you feel any different? Could we tell? Like with calcium deficiency, we see people slumped over in time as their bones shrink, but it's not strictly just due to calcium. So let's just start with when, because of not having an appropriate dietary supplement, if some of you already might be taking another type of magnesium supplement, or your dietary intake is poor, we see this continual decline. Can I measure your blood and tell you you're deficient? No. We can just see interruptions, problems with all those different benefits that I discussed. The bodily functions for magnesium that participates in how many chemical reactions? 700. So we're not talking about just a few. So this is so important in your story as you tell them. So what might be an outcome? People may develop arrhythmias, dysrhythmia, irregular heartbeats that happen and can be occurring in people over time until it becomes, hey, you know, I tend to get a tachycardia. I see, you know, my heart's jumping around. Is it because I'm stressed? And actually, you know, this might be too much information, TMI, as my daughter says. I actually was having this problem, and guess what my cardiologist, who I never thought I'd ever go see one, told me to take? Magnesium. That it was a disruption in the heart muscle's ability to contract properly, and some other issues with it. It's been successful. Muscle cramps. is a sign, can be a sign. Tetany, so rapid firing, you didn't do anything, it just starts cramping. Okay? There are many causes for muscle cramps, but one of them may be just very, very simple with a magnesium issue. Well, these different types of consequences, I think, should be a beautiful part of your story to help people understand potentially that things that have to do with neurological health, we're seeing some links between magnesium status and mood changes. Potentially, it's not the all cause for any of these, but that there is a link. And various studies, what are called meta-analysis, so they've taken separate research studies, combined them to see in better way, a better strength of that evaluation, what might be going on. For muscular, tremors, spasms, irregular heartbeat, coronary spasms, doesn't sound like something anybody wants, and then importantly, bone health. This is what we're learning, that osteoporosis and other bone disorders, it's not just a story about calcium, but one also about magnesium and eating healthfully. Metabolic health is the whole way that we can control our blood sugar level. And I don't want to skim over this quickly because insulin resistance, the hormone that helps regulate how much carbohydrate gets into your cells, as we get older, and for many reasons, the rate of insulin resistance in type 2 diabetes is skyrocketing in teenagers, in young adults, in middle-aged adults. And this is not good. It leads to the development of heart disease. It has a role in certain other types of long-term disorders. So when we look at this all put together, is magnesium the missing link? Is it something that we should be, and certainly is, focusing on more? I hope this story has convinced you, and the good news is, even though you may not be making those food choices, though I advocate you certainly look to whole foods, very nutritious foods, but we have those other layers of possibly using antacids, of other lifestyle issues, of bioavailability that I'll speak more about, that may be compromising how much magnesium actually gets inside of you. But there's good news. Dietary supplementation is a way to approach poor magnesium intake and magnesium status, but not just any dietary supplement. What's our big barrier? What's the story about magnesium getting into you? What's that B word? Bioavailability. We're going to talk a little bit more about this because unlike anything else you're going to find out there, and thank you to the Scientific Advisory Board, the issue of bioavailability is very intelligently, credibly handled with this dietary supplement. You ready for it? Okay, good. We have, and I haven't shown you the bottle yet, Magnesium Complex. That's the name of it, Magnesium Complex. And here's what it looks like, and you will be able to check it out at the product booth. Now, I could have just said, yeah, eat some broccoli and kale and call it a day, but no. We have a one-of-a-kind, very unique formulation, and that I want you to write down. TriMag and PhytoMag is really the beautiful part of what makes this dietary supplement from Neolife so dramatically different, so impressive to me, because there are 3 sources of magnesium that I want to talk to you about briefly, and phytochemical-rich food sources of magnesium. So we're looking at maximum benefit here with multiple forms. If you go walk around, or look online, or walk around a CVS or some other place to buy supplements, you'll see typically there'll be one form of magnesium in that supplement, just one. And while it's what's naturally occurring in the earth, it isn't as bioavailable. So what we have are 3 forms. Magnesium that is bonded to amino acid, a small amino acid called glycine, and the name of that form of magnesium is magnesium bisglycinate. I know, it's a mouthful, but this is what's so unique. Pioneered by Dr. Arthur First, a way to make this mineral, which generally is not very bioavailable, getting into you. It changes that bioavailability dramatically. And then in organic form, we take a compound called citrate, naturally occurring, organic meaning it contains carbon, bind magnesium to that, it's very soluble in water, that form gets into you quite readily. And then magnesium oxide, that's what we find in the earth. It's the richest in magnesium. That is 56% of the weight of magnesium oxide is magnesium. Okay, well what's so different here about these three forms, and in particular the bisglycinate and the citrate, is bioavailability. So I want to wait for you to explain it. And let me think of a way that I just so happen to have a frame. When I got my ticket to fly up here, what do you think the first thing I looked for on my boarding pass? Pre-check. Exactly, because what does pre-check mean? You go right on through. And that is exactly what higher bioavailability is. If you've made that compound more readily absorbed, better bioavailability, it's like, great, I got the pre-check, I'm going in, I'm going to get into my gate, as opposed to not having magnesium bisglycinate in the supplement, not having magnesium citrate, and having a lesser form that has to stand in line. And in fact, it has to stand in line so long it ends up being excreted in your stool. So you want TSA pre-check, right? One of these days I'll clear and sign up for it. I haven't gotten around to it. But we've done it for you. And this was pioneered by Dr. Arthur First, well before TSA pre-check days. But he's very much this pioneering mind that knew that you can do things to these nutrients to improve bioavailability. He really understood it. And this is what's so different about what Neolife has to offer. What else that's different? The phytomag. We have taken 4 phytonutrient-rich plant products: radish, kale, broccoli, and beet. And that whole food component is in the magnesium complex. You're not going to find that anywhere. And why are broccoli and kale green? Chlorophyll. Okay, so there we have it. You guys are brilliant. So the Scientific Advisory Board, founded by Dr. Arthur First, I've got to say more in that this is what's behind you. This is what's standing behind you on every single product, is good science, hard science that develops products, sees a need. It isn't just hype. We have documents, research papers galore in each and every step as a product is developed. And you can learn more certainly at the product booth. And it's nice that 4 of the Scientific Advisory Board members are here: John Miller, Diane Clayton, Mark Lohman, and myself. So we're here to chat with you if you'd like. So as far as who needs magnesium, is it dietarily essential for who? For just you or everyone? Everyone needs this in their diet. We can all benefit from magnesium. Make sure in your mind you have this great summary of magnesium. It's in the world around us. It's there. We have foods that contain it. But the issue is inside of your body, we may not be getting that formation of the cellular energy, that currency that we really need to, because we have issues with bioavailability, poor food choices, and declining levels in the soil. So you have a good story to tell. I know that your time to act is now, and you can learn more about the magnesium complex, but I do want to say that there are other products of Neolife that contain some magnesium, and that magnesium is listed on the label. This magnesium complex, our new product, is designed to optimize bioavailability. So I think you have a great story to tell, to feel simply magnificent, and I wish you the best. Thank you.